Hello friends, James Stevenson back with part 22. My co-host Loki is on assignment in Chechnya. So leading off our top stories tonight, there's my desktop, and let me bring up my Tesla earnings projection model. Hey, check it out, and I'm on the wrong row. So let's scroll on up to where we left off last time, which was this section. I covered these. And then I said, I'll save this one for the next video, and you are now watching the next video. So let's get right into it. What's this say? It says 12 trailing month deliveries. What good is this, or what's going on here? It's just adding up this quarter. So you can see in the sum formula here, we're looking at the sum of row 1340 from column Q through column T. You can see this is column T, right? So it's this quarter plus the deliveries from the previous quarter, the one before that, and the one before that. So it gives you a 4-quarter rolling sum. And that way you can tell every quarter how much that year's deliveries would have been if the year had ended that quarter. That's kind of the point of having a 12 trailing month delivery number. So if Tesla's fiscal year had ended at the end of Q1, they would have delivered 1,061,000 vehicles that year. And then at the end of Q2, the same number was 1,115,000 vehicles. I'm forecasting that in Q3, this figure will rise to 1,235,000 vehicles. And in Q4, that'll be up to 1,373,000 vehicles. Now, can Tesla beat that number? Yes. My goal is never to forecast a number so high that Tesla can't beat it. I am not trying to set outrageously optimistic goals for Tesla that they're going to miss. I can't explain to you why someone who supports Tesla would set expectations for their followers so high that there's no possible way Tesla can achieve those goals. Because what that will result in is people who don't know enough to know that those goals are unachievable, expecting to see those numbers in the quarterly earnings report, and then being angry and disappointed while reading all-time quarterly record revenues and earnings. Does that make any sense? It doesn't, right? So don't set expectations too high, I think, is the moral of the allegory I just told. Okay. So the next row, if I can cover more than one row in this video, is 12 trailing month revenue. So it's doing the same thing that this one did with deliveries, except here it's Tesla Corporation total revenue, not just automotive. This is every kind of thing Tesla sold over the past year, and this number has been ramping up from about $60 billion. You see the B over here. These are in millions, these are in billions. It'll be over 80 billion, almost 90 billion is my forecast for the full year 2022, and then that number is just going to keep on increasing. It's like the revenue bar chart that we saw. That's everybody's favorite colorful bar chart that I make. The Tesla revenue growth story is far from over. There's a lot of revenue growth left ahead for Tesla. And with that comes profit growth. So here we have a profit metric. This is the 12 trailing month adjusted EBITDA number, which has also been rising. Even in a bad Q2, this number went up. So each time you report the 12 trailing month total, you're replacing the oldest month with the most recent month. So when you see growth from one quarter to the next, that tells you that there must have been year-over-year growth in the most recently reported quarter versus what the same number was in the prior year. And that increase from last quarter's 12 trailing month total to this quarter's 12 trailing month total is that year-over-year increase, because those are the only two things that have changed. In this case, Q2 2022 12 trailing month totals are giving you last year's Q3 and Q4 plus this year's Q1 and Q2. So the change from here to here is the year-over-year increase in the new Q2 as opposed to the old Q2 that just got dropped out of this number. So this number includes last year's Q2. This number drops last year's Q2 and adds this year's Q2. Hopefully that makes sense. So what you can see is year-over-year growth will be hard to miss. This adjusted EBITDA number is going to go up by a lot in the future. Now, I'm not promising that it'll be exactly these numbers next year, but next year's numbers will be higher than this year's numbers were. There's going to be growth in all of Tesla's profitability metrics, not just adjusted EBITDA. They're all going up. Tesla's becoming a more profitable company, especially as Giga Berlin and Giga Austin ramp up and become more profitable. Those are purpose-built factories, by the way. Fremont, Tesla kind of bought an old used factory that Toyota and GM had a partnership to produce vehicles out of, little economy compact cars. And the factory is not well laid out as far as where the buildings are for producing vehicles efficiently, not the vehicles Tesla makes anyway. So every time Tesla builds a new factory, they gain efficiencies just from design intent, just from being intentional about where stuff ought to go to make the flow of parts and processes functional for creating the end product that factory was designed to produce. So that's what the non-GAAP, that's what the adjusted EBITDA line is telling you. Next we have non-GAAP earnings per delivery. So if you just take the earnings dollars, the total earnings dollars, and you divide them by the deliveries on a 12 trailing month basis, what does that give you? I'm not showing you the math every single time I click into one of these, but I'll show you this one just so you know. Here's your same vehicle deliveries over the trailing 12 months. This is my forecast. So we got half a year of actual, half a year of forecast going into this number. And then these are the non-GAAP earnings up here. So by the end of the year, there will be a whole bunch of non-GAAP earnings and a whole bunch of deliveries. And if you divide those into each other, I think it's going to be $13,500 per vehicle of non-GAAP earnings almost. And that's a huge number. That's like world-class profitability. I don't think any automaker is making that much profit. Bottom line, after-tax profit per vehicle they deliver. That's just going to continue into the future. That's what I'm forecasting. The first rule of forecasting is whatever you forecast, it will be wrong. So I'm not guaranteeing that these are exactly the numbers that will happen next year. But something like that is what I expect to happen. And I'll be surprised if we get something very different, a lot higher or a lot lower than that. Okay, and these videos are all for entertainment purposes only, so do your own research and not financial advice and etc. Okay, so what's this next row about? This was about making that chart that we reviewed earlier in the forecast review series, where you just throw out the regulatory credits revenue from the non-GAAP earnings per delivery. These are the rows where those charts are coming from. So, as I explained in that chart video, it's not a valid accounting exercise to go to your bottom line after-tax profit and then throw out the most profitable kind of revenue. That's not valid math at all. That's not valid business analysis. It's not valid accounting. It's not a real accounting metric. And maybe I should just bring up very quickly... where do I have this? Here it is. A tweet from Matt Smith responding to me with a little tussle I had with John Engel here. Now, I went into this in James's Gems of the Week, so I won't repeat myself on this hater who's been putting out FUD for at least 4 years now, saying that the mass market Model 3 was a flop. That was his article in May of 2018, the very beginning of the Tesla ramp. And he was already talking about how, yeah, good times. Okay, so this other article over here says that the top selling car in California is the Tesla Model Y, and the number 2 selling car in California is the Tesla Model 3. So is that a flop? Probably not a flop. All right, so he was responding to me there, so I had to share some other screenshots here of other failed predictions John Engel made, doubting that the Tesla Model 3 would ever sell, saying that the Model Y is too small to contend outside of the narrower crossover set, and the lack of meaningful differentiation from the Model 3, especially on seating capacity, creates risk of cannibalization rather than market expansion. So John was saying, hey, Tesla's not going to sell any more Model 3s and Ys combined, because every time they sell a Model 3, it's just going to cannibalize a Model 3 sale. That won't happen. Well, how do you explain Model 3 and Model Y being the number 1 and number 2 selling vehicles, according to registrations from the state of California, not even according to Tesla's reporting? They didn't share that number. The California Dealers Association did. So Matt Smith replied with a compliment. Your logic and hair are much better than his. Also, this is one of my all-time favorite exchanges. So I have to go into this, and I'll save something else later for an episode of Who's Hating Hard on Tesla Today. I've already done one on John Engel. Actually, episode 1 of the series Who's Hating Hard on Tesla Today from 2018 was about John Engel. But I will go into this one real fast. Here's a gem for Tesla historian. Fudster Almington Cap fails at basic financial statement analysis in his article, but says he'd consider a correction if someone can spell it out for him. When I do, he changes his mind in the least compelling way possible. So let's click through here. This is going to be too small for some of you to read, so I'll read it to you. You got to be kidding me. If you take away credits, Tesla was still profitable because you have to tax affect those revenues. How are guys like this still putting this crap out? So somebody tagged John Engel here with his Twitter handle at AlmingtonCap, and Matt asked, will you be issuing a correction? John said, why should I? Matt said, you have to subtract credits from earnings before tax, then tax affect them. You can't simply subtract a revenue line from net income. If you do it the right way, Tesla would have posted a profit. So John's claim in the article was that Tesla, it says in the headline, still can't make a profit selling cars. And his justification for that was throw out the regulatory credits revenue from the bottom line earnings, which is wrong math, as Matt points out. So Matt follows up here. You have to subtract credits from earnings before tax. We just read that tweet. John said, you are welcome to elaborate with your math. If I find it compelling, I'll consider correcting the article. So this is a fancy way of saying I don't follow. I don't understand what you're saying. So Matt spells it out for him and does his homework for him, giving him the corrected numbers. Earnings before tax were $555. So Tesla would have had $158 in pre-tax earnings without credits, or roughly $100 million of positive net income. And then he had to follow that up with, will you be issuing a correction? John says, nah. Nah is his response here. And Matt replies, care to elaborate on why? And John says, not especially. So there you go. I mean, this is the Tesla Q hater community on Twitter versus thoughtful Tesla retail analysts in a microcosm. Like, this is where to go if somebody wants to understand what the debate is like when you try to correct the errors that Tesla Q is making in their forecasts and in their conclusions. All right, so yeah, and then I mentioned that was episode 1 of Who's Hating Hard on Tesla Today. Okay, so we'll get rid of this and head back to the spreadsheet and keep talking about my forecast thread here, but I wanted to make that short diversion to explain what this row is about. It's about, hey, even if you use that flawed math, even if you think that John Ingle math is okay, here's the profit per vehicle. This is still 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as much profit per vehicle as GM or Ford make. What's your next argument, Tesla Q? You think Tesla's going broke? How are they going to go broke, making $10,000 profit per vehicle? Next year it's going to be higher. There won't be any quarter next year where non-GAAP earnings per delivery minus regulatory credit revenue is less than, $13,000 per vehicle. So how's Tesla going to go bankrupt? They can't. Not while this is happening. Something really bad has to happen to Tesla's business. The force majeure needs to be sudden and severe for this company with its fortress balance sheet at this point and tremendous operating cash flows to face any kind of financial hardship. All right, next section here is revenue by type. But I don't want to do this section now. I will save it for the next video. So, I talked too long about John Ingle. But if you have liked this video, I would encourage you to click the like button and help the YouTube algorithm recommend this video to people. If you're not subscribed to my channel, you could subscribe to my channel. And click the notification bell if you want to get notified when I post fresh content to YouTube, and you can be among the first to see new videos, and I'll see you in the next video.